and I want to give brief introduction to the witnesses. The first is Kwame Raoul, the 42nd Attorney General of the state of Illinois. As the state's chief legal and law enforcement officer, Attorney General Raoul has been a leader in consumer protection, working to stop bad actors who prey on Illinois consumers and students. He served as Attorney General since 2019 after serving 14 years as the Illinois State Senator. For those who want footnotes in history, it was Kwame Raoul who succeeded another state senator named Barack Obama in that particular district. He had previously served as prosecutor in Cook County and as staff attorney for City Colleges of Chicago. Christopher Chapman is here as president and CEO of Access Lex Institute, a position he's held since 2008. Access Lex Institute is a nonprofit that promotes broad-based access to quality legal education. Prior to joining that company, Mr. Chapman was the president and CEO of a nonprofit student loan provider, served as vice president of the student loan originator, worked in a private practice, and as a staff member in the U.S. House at one time. Diane Barta is with us virtually, network administrator from Richmond Hills, Georgia. She and her husband, Chris, have 2 kids. She has an associate's degree and a bachelor's degree. Then she took out additional student loans to pursue a master's degree at the for-profit Ashford University. That may ring a bell, Senator. They were based in Iowa, I believe. She currently has over $120,000 in outstanding student loan debt. I thank her for being here to share her story. Dr. Beth Akers, Senior Fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, where her work focuses on the economics of higher education. Previously, she worked as a Senior Fellow at Manhattan Institute, a visiting research scholar at the Federal Reserve Board, a Fellow at Brookings, and a staff economist at the Council of Economic Advisors under President George W. Bush. Finally, Elizabeth Gonzalez, who I had the honor of meeting this morning, is the directing attorney for the Consumer Law Unit at the Public Law Center in Santa Ana, California. In this role, she provides direct representation of low-income debtors, including student loan borrowers. She serves as a member of the State of California's Department of Financial Protection and Innovation's Debt Collection Advisory Committee. She's an adjunct lecturer in law at the University of Southern California, and she is certainly welcome despite being a Packers fan. Let me lay out the run of show for today's hearing. After we swear in the witnesses, each witness will have 5 minutes for opening statements, then we'll turn to questions from senators. So I'll ask all the witnesses to please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before the committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Let the record show that they answered in the affirmative. And we'll start off with General Kwame Raoul of Illinois.
What college you mentioned from Ohio?
Ashford.
Oh, yeah. In Clinton.
You have to get the red light on.
Well, I must have been that fifth witness that didn't get swept into the excellent category. Thank you, Chairman Durbin, Ranking Member Grassley, members of the committee, for the invitation to speak to your committee. I'm excited to contribute to the discussion of potential bipartisan game-changing bankruptcy reform for student loan borrowers, and I thank the chairman and Senator Cornyn for putting forth this measure.
This question here.
The Illinois Attorney General's office has extensive experience dealing with the burden of student loans that student loans place on consumers. In 2019, our office received over 700 complaints about higher education, most concerning for-profit schools and student loans. These high-cost schools target low-income students in their federal student loans, which are incredibly and unnecessarily difficult for these students to discharge in bankruptcy. As a result, students burdened with loans that many never will pay off in their lifetimes. Those loans negatively impact students' abilities to make important life decisions. Americans hold over $1.7 trillion in student loan debt. Nearly 30% of federal student loan borrowers default within 12 years of entering college. A major contributor to student debt load are predatory and expensive for-profit schools. For-profit schools have the worst repayment rates. A shocking 98% of programs that failed the Department of Education's gainful employment metrics, which measured students' ability to repay their loans by comparing debt to earnings, were at for-profit schools. Since I took office in 2019, we have discharged over $20 million in fraudulently obtained student loan debt for Illinois borrowers, all used to pay for for-profit schools. Unfortunately for borrowers, when the schools declare bankruptcy or seek similar refuge and receivership, funds are not available to make borrowers whole. Borrowers who need relief must be able to discharge their federal student loans. Our experience investigating Westwood College in particular and ITT Technical Institute help illustrate the difficult position these students are in. My office sued Westwood College in 2012. Despite the school's closure, the widespread discharge of students' private student loans, and my continued advocacy, Westwood students are still waiting for relief from their federal student loans. My office brought claims against Westwood for misrepresenting the ability of students with Westwood credits to become police officers in Illinois. We also had claims against the school for making private student loans they know students could not pay. These loans were loss leaders designed to bring in just enough money to evade the 90-10 rule, which requires students to get 10% of their revenue from sources other than Title VII federal aid. Default rates were as high as 90% for some cohorts. In 2016, my office applied to the U.S. Department of Education to discharge the loans of defrauded students. In 2019, I wrote the department urging it to discharge the Westwood loans. In July of this year, the department finally began to discharge some of individual applications based on evidence we provided with our application. The relief is welcome, but students need more. The department discharged loans for just under 500 borrowers, but we applied for relief for over 3,000. The tuition for Westwood's criminal justice degree was as high as $75,000. And Westwood had other similarly high-priced programs. Similar to Westwood, ITT engaged in a scheme to evade the 90-10 rule by pressuring students to take out private loans the school knew the students could not repay. Default rates were estimated to exceed 80% for some cohorts. ITT closed its doors and filed for bankruptcy in 2016. As of 2010, approximately 65.8% of ITT's revenue was derived from federal education funds, around $1.1 billion. Instead of investing these funds in the students, in 2019, ITT allocated $489 million of its revenue to profit. In June of 2019, my office, along with 44 other attorneys general in a bipartisan effort, announced a settlement against CUSA, one of the private loan providers, for more than $168 million in private student loan debt relief nationwide, benefiting more than 18,000 students. Similarly, in another bipartisan effort in September of 2020, we announced a settlement against Peaks, another such private loan provider, providing $330 million nationwide in private student loan discharges. However, just like Westwood, the federal loans continue to burden those students. Just this past April, a group of 25 states, including Illinois, submitted a group discharge application to the Department of Education on behalf of ITT students who attended from 2007 to 2010. They were all subject to misrepresentations by ITT regarding the overstated income students could expect to receive with an ITT education. I acknowledge and applaud the department's June 16 announced granting of 18,000 borrowers defense to repayment applications for former ITT students. We can only do so much in enforcing consumer laws. Many for-profit schools file for bankruptcy themselves, including ITT and Corinthian colleges. The students deserve the same right to bankruptcy relief as these schools. The standard loan repayment plan is designed so that loans are payable within 10 years. Among those Americans who fail to pay their debt within this period are borrowers who will simply not be able to repay this debt. Under current law, the vast majority of these borrowers are unable to discharge their student debt in bankruptcy. Allowing student loans to be freely dischargeable after 10 years from the time they first became payable serves two key purposes. It provides relief for Americans experiencing the most financial strain and who are otherwise eligible for bankruptcy relief, while also protecting solvency of governmental student loan programs. As to the theory that those might strategically seek out such bankruptcy, there are ample provisions in the Bankruptcy Code to guard against fraud, bad faith, and abuse to ensure relief is limited to those debtors who deserve relief. Discharging such debts will allow these former students to have the lives they may have been putting off, buying homes, getting married, and even starting families. Further, I strongly urge the committee to ensure that institutions are held accountable for failing to provide students an affordable education by tying bankruptcy discharges to institutional finances. Aligning its incentives at institutions with students' financial success was a recommendation made by the Senate Committee on Health, Education, and Labor and Pensions in its landmark 2012 report, and also a goal of the Gainful Employment Rule. Failing to hold these predatory institutions accountable does nothing but line the pockets of shareholders at the expense of taxpayers. Struggling borrowers have been waiting long enough. The time for a reform is now.
Thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel. And while you're at it, please leave us a comment. Thank you for watching.